Hey, what's up, y'all? Wait, I know what I'm doing. Got me all like loosey goosey. You got me all comfortable. I'm like, ooh, I'm on a show. Let me tap into this alter ego really quick. Hey, y'all, what's up, everyone? My name is K.Short, and welcome to another episode of Connecting the Dots. I'm so excited that you are here today because today we're going to have a very, very, very special guest. Someone that has been around for this journey for a very long time. So much so, I have a little bit surprise for them in the midst of this conversation. So, this is a conversation you're really going to look forward to just because it's friendship, it's family, it's something where it's like we're doing this together, and this is a conversation, this show, things of that sort. It's something we've been talking about, and it's because we're in a mastermind together, and we'll tell you more about that. But first and foremost, before I let her into the studio, I just want to be like transparent and clear with all of you because this is something that me and my guests have talked about recently during our mastermind. And I've realized that the whole point of connecting the dots is looking for basically the educators in the streets, aka online, in the streets, but also online. We and myself, we've recognized that, we know that the educational system is changing. It has changed. It's going to change. And the future is a little unclear. But we know that the internet's going to be here for a while. And so it's so funny to like be here and doing this work because it's finally coming full circle. And I say that because a decade ago when I was getting my degree in education, I realized I was like, ooh, the educational system's going to be different in the future. I don't know how, I don't know why. It was still like kind of in hindsight. This was in 2010, but I was like, I feel like if I became an educator in the educational system, it's not going to pan out the way that I want to as a lifelong career. And so I ended up getting a degree in communication studies and public relations and was pursuing to become a talk show host. And so, I went back to Phoenix after getting my degree in Flagstaff at Northern Arizona University. I started like interviewing people in the streets. I was like, I didn't really know how to start a talk show. I just, because I didn't get the degree of journalism or whatever the case, but I was like, I'm going to figure it out. And so that's why I started my first YouTube channel. And so Jules was actually one of those people that I interviewed way back when. And so that's why I'm so excited to bring her onto the show because we've been witnessing each other's journeys thus far. And so again, being fully transparent, I'm looking for folks who are ready and willing to educate the next generation. We are now called like coaches, consultants, right? Online educators, and overall just mentors is really what I'm looking for. And so it's so relieving to realize like who my people are. It's been difficult navigating through these streets being like, where are my people at? Oh, they're all in class. No wonder I can't find them out in the streets. But now it's like, okay, like I'm getting to seek out these people who are doing amazing work, who I know who care about the future, who care about young people, who are learning so many things and are actually getting real life experience. And that's what I really love about season 1 and focusing on entrepreneurs, because we're trying to navigate how to be educators in this new landscape and how we can teach people the things that we're learning. And so what I really love about bringing on Jules, and I'm going to read her bio. Sorry, I get a little excited. Sorry, not sorry. What I love about Jules is she's tried so many things. Like the experience backs up what she's actually doing. And so you're going to be witnessing a conversation that we're both turning the corner on what feels like after a lot of trial and error, this feels like the one thing that is going to be a long journey. How does it feel for you
Oh
so
yeah.
far becoming a strategy coach?
It still feels like we're figuring it out.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like that's normal though, because that's kind of been the whole entire journey in itself since I started back in 2015, my entrepreneur journey. And it's just about unfolding different things. But just as we change, the things we find interest in change, and maybe we become more passionate about something different that we're really good at, or we see like needs a little more TLC and attention. So it's just
Wait a
ever
second.
changing like we are.
This is something and I have a video on it, so I'm not like just like pulling things from thin air, y'all. But I've been saying this for a decade when I started my YouTube channel. I had an interview with a friend that I met at NAU, and I was talking about how like I think our generation, like as millennials, exactly what you said, we were the first ones to like adopt technology in a way that it was pretty proficient. So yeah, we were the first ones to like kind of adopt it, and it was like kind of slowly embedded into us. And I think something to acknowledge about that, one, we're the first and last generations remember that tension between playing outside and not. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
so that's why I have such an affinity towards us in terms of like, if not us, then who? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because let's be real, these older generations, they're just as I don't like they talk so much crap, but you're just as addicted as the younger generation. You know what I mean? And I feel like we're in this toggle between in this messy middle where we're like, I remember life without it and I also know life with it. And now we're what I feel like, and this is a question I want you to think about. I feel like as a generation, our in terms of what we're unraveling and what we're undoing as a generation is to find that balance between having it without having it. What do you think your grandparents and our grandparents like? How did they move the needle forward, right? And then how did your parents move the needle forward? And then it coming to you, for you, Jules specifically, how do you feel like you're moving the needle forward in your family?
Honestly, where I feel is I'm moving it forward for both generations, for the ones before me and the ones after.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because working in a coffee shop, you meet people of all types, age, color, whatever demographics. You meet a lot of people. And then also just being like a little closer with my parents and observing and my like godmother and all that stuff, they're learning from me. And
Mm-hmm.
my mom especially has admit that like she receives it, and that's the biggest thing for that generation to do, is to receive the changes
Mm-hmm.
that we are creating and to
Mm-hmm.
learn from us as well, because it's impacted. They still have life left, like they still have so much time to like be fulfilled. And that's the sad part. A lot of those former generations, their dreams were so small, whether they if they even had a dream or a goal.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so it's giving them light to see like where they are now and how they can live differently and be more fulfilled and have that love and peace that they were never once taught to create.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I feel like with me, I'm helping both, because it's such a simple way of living. It's simply just living with intent. It's living in the present moment. It's being conscious and aware of how you move, what you say, how you think, how you feel, and how you
Mm-hmm.
dress, like every single aspect and where you are, but also understanding that where you are, who you are, all those things is not permanent. And you
Mm-hmm.
have the power to change it however you like. You can
Mm-hmm.
move places. You can change how you make your daily habits. You can change how you dress.
Mm-hmm.
It's just understanding how much power you have over yourself is
Mm-hmm.
going to reflect on how much power you have over your life.
Especially now more than ever. I've observed that people feel so hopeless right now, you know? I've observed that people feel like they don't have any power. I've observed that people are giving up. I think we're kind of turning that corner a little bit because it's been a while. Um,
Hmm.
but but I described to them. I said, but the thing with Jules in the span of all these years is that there's a similar hunger in her that we have. We both have a hunger that's unseen, and I wanted, yeah, we both have a hunger that's unseen that nobody really knows why. Like we do what we do, but there's something inside of us that's asking us for it to be revealed, for it to be unlocked, for it to be put out into the world. And no one is telling us, like, hey, if you don't do that, that thing in there, like, no, you know what I mean? Like, it's something in us that can't quite describe because there's not. I think for most people, they already see us like, oh, they got it. They've had a coffee shop. They're launching books. They're doing all these things, but we're like still unsatiated because we know we're not where we know we can be. And so I'm just curious if you want to unpack that a little bit. And maybe I'm misreading it, but I don't think that's what it is. I guess I want to go into this hunger part. I'm curious if this hunger is even linked to entrepreneurship. You know, someone who's kind of who is new to this. I'm just curious. What are your thoughts? Yes.
Okay, let's time travel. Yeah, so what I've realized in the process of unbecoming to become who I am now, I have realized, like I think you have said before, I've heard it somewhere, that we don't necessarily change. we just discover the pieces of us that never leave and kind of evolve through that. Like those are the roots in us, and we just kind of like allow other things to fulfill that and feed those seeds to help us bloom the way we're supposed to bloom. And so, like, looking back in my childhood, comparing what I'm interested in now and how, like, I have this attachment to like earth and spiritual things and crystals, and I'm not like a whiz at like crystal knowledge and stuff and astrology. I wish I could be. I can be if I study hard enough, but the attraction is what I was kind of comparing. So when I was a kid, I loved being in nature. And I remember in middle school, I went on this like camping trip, cabin trip for my biotechnology class. Sounds fancy, but I don't know what it was. But science isn't my thing. But we were out in like the woods, and I remember, I was in seventh grade, eighth grade, and there's inevitable drama in your life within. And I think I was just having maybe a friendship situation. So I would go off in the morning and I found a creek and I had my little like sketchbook or notebook or whatever. So I would sit by the creek. I started sketching the trees and writing. I was a writer then too. I would write poetry and stuff. And I would just write my feelings. Like it's always been my outlet to cope. And then I realized it like in my adulthood, this season of my life, I was meditating and I was doing my own, finding my own therapy, my own coping mechanisms. I was figuring it out on my own and like how to pour back into me and release something that shouldn't have been there, that I allowed from an external party. So that was like one thing. And like I still love nature. I will still go hiking. I realized like I need a good hike when there's something I really can't meditate through or write through. I need like the physical, mental, and spiritual challenge all in one, and that's hiking for me. So I don't hike. I don't like cardio, so I'll do the hike. I'm That's the physical challenge, and then the mental is pushing through to get past those physical challenges. And then when I get to the top, it's the spiritual where I meditate and I take it all in and I connect with earth and nature and just look over the city and think about like all the people, like why are they hiking? And there's just all of my thoughts to do what they do. And then another thing is when I was a kid, we would always go shopping for gifts. And there was this one store that had a lot of like little figurines and stuff. And I was always attracted, and I did buy these as gifts, to amethyst figurines. I didn't know it was amethyst at the time, but I have one too from back in the day from the 90s when I bought it for my mom. I found it at like my dad's house or something and I took it because I'm like, I know why I got this. I know now because I was just attracted to that. Like, I would always collect rocks. I would always like look at the crazy crystals, like, and then obviously look at the sky and the moon, like everything. So it was just, it was just wild to see that. And then I think with the writing too, like I've always been a writer, and even through high school, I would write poetry just to cope with my emotions and the hardships that I was going through. And looking back at the poetry now, I'm like, this girl should have also been in therapy, but we made it through because also that also ties into the culture. Like we weren't taught to be open and speak up about our feelings and our problems and all that stuff. So I had writing, and I would also do art too in high school. I would just like doodle just on my own, and I was getting good, but it wasn't my like, that's not my profession. That's not what I was meant to do forever. It's just something I do for release.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah,
Continue.
those are just a couple of things from the childhood that I compared to now. And I think through my adulthood too, through my messy adulthood, I should say, my young adulthood, it was it was kind of similar, I guess, like that. I would still write, but then I started singing again. And I say again because I was always into singing when I was a kid. I was in choir all through grade school and a little bit of middle school. Yeah, it's exactly. It's always a shock when I tell people, like, oh yeah, I always say I used to sing. They're like, what do you mean you used to sing? Like if you used to sing, you should still sing, right? And I'm like, not for you. So that's why I just like it's like that hidden talent that I keep hidden intentionally because of childhood, not I don't want to say traumas, but events that slowly caused me to shut my voice off. And even though I still sang after like being told not to or like to shut up, whatever, um, I still like tried out for honor choir in fifth grade on my own. Just I wanted to sing. So and I made it. So and then I think in my early adulthood, like early 20s, I got the urge to try to find my voice again, my singing voice. And I started asking my friends who are musicians, like, hey, can you guys help me with this? Like, I have some songs that I like to cover. Can you play them for me so I can sing? But I could never do it sober. And that was during my season of like partying all the time too. So like I had no problem drinking for a jam session. And so we would do that. We would get together and be like, yeah, come over. I'll buy us some beer, like some snacks. We'll go over some songs and just have a good time. But I found my voice and I I accepted that like I was a really good singer and I was kind of like also ashamed that I never allowed myself to continue pushing that voice out and finding it in my earlier childhood and teen years or whatever. So, and I still like to sing. It's just it's still one of those things like I don't feel comfortable doing in front of people unless I'm like in my zone and I know that they might be listening, but I don't want to see that they're
Mm. Yes.
listening. That's the whole point of mentors, coaches,
Yes.
consultants, like all that stuff.
Mm.
It's like, yes, we can do it on our own, but you don't have to. And you can seek out that person that can take your hands and guide you your way. And that's what I've been told about like my approach and how I coach and how I like move is that I always meet people where they're at. I'm not going to say that my strategy is a one size fits all because it's not. Like my strategy is to always take a look at their overall life. Like, what does your day to day life look like? And I help fill in those gaps as far as like, okay, well, when you're binging Netflix, your favorite show for 3 hours a day, you could be working on your business. Like maybe minimize over time. You don't have to give it up cold turkey if you can't, but there's just a lot of gaps in our lives that we don't realize or take the time to notice that we're wasting it when we could be fulfilling it with what we really want to do or with what we where we really want to go, taking those actions.
Mm-hmm.
So I do that and then I also let them know like also be realistic that this isn't going to be a stamp to make it permanent. Like this isn't the routine every week, every day.
Mm.
Things are going to you're going to have to learn to pivot. Like how do you pivot your priorities to stay on track and not give up and give in to like this is too hard, I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I've noticed is like I'm very realistic with how I work.
And I think something to note is that it's hard and it's not. I think again we have to acknowledge like just the time and what it means to be human today. We're living through a time that I mean this is probably like the second renaissance or something like that, you know? So it's like we're going through so many changes as humanity that like yes, it's hard. Like there's things coming at us from all angles all the time, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I think what Jules and I are trying to say is like we're also in control too. Like literally to be honest, we can eliminate half of the thoughts, feelings, emotions if we just have some boundaries around our phone. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing. I think a lot of times people are like, just get rid of it altogether, like going cold turkey. And you can, you know, but like, we also have to accept the fact that it's here, it's going to stay here. And like, we just have to have some tools, habits, and resources on how to navigate it, you know? But it's like, so yes, it's difficult, you know, but also at the same time, it really can be that easy in the sense of deciding and taking action right now. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something that I've always admired and want to continue to adopt from you is like, just do it now. You know what I mean? Like, just do it now. There's no excuses, like, you know, whatever the case may be, because people didn't have to deal with this phone thing, you know what I mean, so many years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So the way that they were making moves, they were like, oh, well, what else is there to do? Well, now it's like, well, what else is there to do? Just scroll. You know what I mean? So it's like those moments of
Yeah.
boredom, those breaths in between life, like we're having to find our way to regain that back. And again, that's what I really love about your approach, where it's like, let's look at your life holistically and then
And they get so addicted to that that they don't have that focus and they don't know how to focus. And a lot of times they don't even have the imagination that children are supposed to have. And that's the biggest thing. And that's why they can't decide on what goals and dreams they have, because they don't have a box to think outside of. They're stuck in one box and it's this. Exactly. So it's just, that's another thing that drives me is like I'm catering to, or like my drive is to like help the older generation realize like they can still, there's still time. And then also the younger generation, like it doesn't have to be this way. You can be different. You can like learn our ways, learn from us, while at the same time we're also learning from them. Like there's no doubt we're all learning from each other all the time. So it's just a matter of like how do we meet in the middle and see what's the most important thing here.
yeah. Yeah, so many thoughts on that. And I think what I love what we're doing is it's not about this is the thing where I think we're moving towards. It's not about it's always about education. But the difference is now and the fun part about it is now it's about self-education. It's like we get to
Yeah.
choose what we want to learn. We get to create the curriculums that we want to learn. You know what I mean? And that's why for me, you talked about this box. Like that's why I'm creating daily digital decluttering because I'm just like I cannot work with students or anyone, students, I don't care how old or young, if we have not got control of this thing, because right now it's in control of us, And so for me, I would, exactly what you're saying. I'm first off surprised you made it all the way up to almost a student, like to student teaching. I didn't even get that far. I was like, no, not those kids, not this time, not with these tools. I was just like, something's different. But I did say, I was like, I know they're on this thing, so I need to meet them on this thing. You know what I mean? But now it's like having a different conversation. It's like, how can I meet them on this thing to get them off this thing? You know? And you're talking about boxes. I was like, well, if you're in Arizona, I'm just kidding. But we're hopping from box to box. But that's real.
Yeah.
We're hopping from our TV to our phone screens, to our TV screens, to our car box, our office box, our building boxes. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I love that you mentioned like the lack of imagination, unfortunately, and again how we were talking about earlier, the lack of the hope, and the lack of all of these things, because this thing is really has a hold on us, and whether people believe it or not, like it coffee and the phone are the two legal drugs that is just slowly seeping into our being. And I want to go into 2015, so we're fast forwarding you, this little girl
Okay.
journaling, naturing, cute, and now it's showing up in your daily life. I want to see how it's showing up in your daily life. We went through college. Y'all heard in her bio, went to ASU, was going to be a teacher, and then you got your degree
In English.
in English. Yes, you did. And then, but there was these moments where like, what is it like to start things and do things for yourself, right? And so then this is when you
Yeah.
started coming up with Pop Chic, right? But
Yeah.
where does caffeine suckers fall into this?
That was a hobby. Caffeine Sucka started in 2012 because that was like where I really started diving into the local coffee shop scene throughout college because I was always, doing homework or studying or whatever. So I drank a lot more coffee than the average human being, and don't anymore, I don't think. But um, I think we would take pictures of and this was probably the beginning, like,
Instagram.
I don't know, but we would take pictures of our coffee drinks and even caffeine. It was just all caffeine. And then 2013, I graduated.
Mm-hmm.
I was in corporate for a year before I decided I had to leave because I wasn't doing anything with my degree like most graduates in weird fields like that. So I I knew that if I didn't, kind of like what I did recently, like if I didn't light a fire under my ass
Mm-hmm.
and just leave something that I was comfortable in, I would have never moved.
Mm.
I would have got complacent. And I remember I applied for a manager position in that company because I was there for 7.5 years. So I'm like, I know how to do this, so I can be a manager. I didn't get the job and I was bummed, but after processing like over time, I was like, I didn't get the job for this reason. If I would have got a manager position, I probably would have stayed there another 7.5 years, if not longer. Who knows? And I don't want to know. Like, I'm glad I quit. And everyone asking me, like, oh, so what's your job gonna do? Like, what are you gonna do now? And I was like, I don't know. I'm just gonna hang out. I don't know. I'm gonna figure it out. So I quit in 2014 in December, and I was just like figuring it out. And I've always wanted to write and publish a book, and I've always wanted to be a business owner. And going back to my childhood, I've always wanted to just do whatever I want, you know, just a brat. So it's always been within me. Like, don't tell me what to do. I'm going to do whatever I want in a good way most times. But so I did that. 2015, I was starting my well, going back 2012, I started my self development journey and growing and self educating and all that stuff, discovering who I am, what I like, and where I want to be. So 2015, I wanted to implement that journey along with everything that I love doing. So my art, my photography, my writing. I added a blog on my website, and then also my overall wrap it up. Like, this is just a message to have everyone realize the power of perception, and how you perceive life is how life is, and that you have the power to change your perception on life if you want to see it differently. Like, it's the power of perception, but also the power of decision, the power of the decision you make that you want to see life differently and live life differently. So 2015, I start this business. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to make money off of it. Authors don't make money unless you like market the crap out of your books, and you don't make money off the books. It's about the publicity and who pays you to like attend certain things. So it takes time to get money, or different approach, I guess. But I wrote because I loved it and I had a message to share. And then I went back to corporate because I needed to make money, and that wasn't it. So went back to corporate, still tried to maintain that business, but I again didn't know what I was doing, and I was doing it alone. So it eventually faded, but then months later in 2016 spring, me and my mom started talking about the coffee shop business again. So, and we had been planning like within um like 3 years before that. So since like 2013, 12, we had been planning already. So 2016 comes, we start planning again. We realize we don't have any more planning to do. We just need to find a place and money to pay for it. So that happened within like a 2 month span. We locked in a lease at a location, and that same summer, 2016, is when we opened Three's Co. And by November, I think the end of the year of 2016, I quit my job. Oh no, I switched jobs. I switched jobs and I worked part time, and then I studied for personal training so I could have that as my income because I was so tired of working for people. So once I was like getting ready to test, months before I was testing for the personal training, I quit the corporate job again and got my certification, started racking clients, and was working personal training while managing and running the coffee shop. So that was like 2014 to 16.
Wow. And what was
Yeah.
happening in 2016?
2016 was like just really building up the coffee shop.
Yeah.
And I think 2017 is when I really learned how to like manage the coffee shop and also building clients, learning that service business of how to coach.
Mm.
And then through personal training, I realized, even through my own testimonial, like physical fitness transformation is not just a physical transformation. Your mind has to be on the same path. And I would post things too during my fitness journey, like worked out the mind, now time to work out or worked out the body, now time to work out the mind. So I'd post like my protein shake next to a book with a highlighter of like whatever I was reading at that time. So I've constantly been tying the two together, fit mind, fit body. And that started molding into my personal training business, the Fit Mind, Fit Body quote. to where I created fitness programs called Fit Mind, Fit Body and hashtag Fit Mind, Fit Body. Um, but it's always been like mindset for me first. And that's what I realized just from my own experience. I'm so big on mindset in everything I do because there's no way you can accomplish something if you're not in the right state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no way you will be 100% fulfilled with how you're living if you're not truly taking care of your mind
Yeah.
and how you think and how you see and feel and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So power of perception is still like a motto of mine, and it may not be a company that I still put into, but it exists.
Yeah. And I think something about perspective, like just perception, perspective. And again, just kind of throwing some gems out here, y'all. When things happen to us, besides the fact that they're happening for us, but it's just an event. And when something happens, like this
Mm-hmm.
event is happening right now, and we have how I'm viewing it, how Jules is viewing it, and how the audience is viewing it. I think the biggest thing there, talking about that mindset part, and I just have to say this, y'all, because this is what I've noticed, and where we're losing the battle right now is that when we wake up first thing in the morning, I'm sure Jules can attest to this. Jules, when do you roll over and look at your phone? And do you like what's your morning like before you open up some tech in the morning? What's that routine look like?
So I've implemented the rule in my daily morning routine to the yes, I have my phone because it's my alarm, but I changed uh the brightness mode
Mm-hmm.
to like a it's easier on your eyes, whatever it's called. I changed that. I put brightness all the way to low, and then the my it always stays on silent. And then my first thing, the only reason I grab my phone in the morning is to put on a meditation. And that's the first thing I do is listen to my meditation in the morning, whether it's 5 minutes or 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
As long as I do meditation first thing, that's all that matters. And then once I'm done with that, I put my phone on the nightstand. I get ready to go brush my teeth,
Mm-hmm.
do my thing, take the dog out. And once I'm ready to go to the kitchen, like I still really try. Yes, there's times that I'll like do a little scrolling. I'm not perfect, but overall, the routine is I don't dive into anything. I don't answer emails. I don't answer texts, messages, like whatever. I don't check any work or scroll until I'm like gonna clock in for that. So I get my coffee. Cheers. So I like after I take the dog outside, I take my phone still to the kitchen, but I'm making coffee, and then when I get my coffee, I sit down and journal in my intentions journal for like my affirmations, my daily gratitude, and going over the priority tasks of the day. So that's how I set the tone. And all of this really is, it sounds like a lot, but it's from anywhere between like 15 to 20 minutes to maybe 30, depending on how long I want to take. And when I journal, like that doesn't even take 5 minutes, that first part. Once I'm done with that, like depending on the day, I'll sit down and read. I'll put some good music on and I'll sit down and read with my coffee for the rest of the sipping coffee enjoyment. And then once I do that, like I just kind of figure out like if I have to go to my office to work or if I have to go meet someone, like it's different.
Yeah.
But so the point is I don't allow myself to do any I don't let this start my day. I let me start my
Mm-hmm.
day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I wanted to just highlight that to y'all because that's what I've noticed. Like this is I think one of the game changer habits that if we can get in control of this and realize that we are in control of the device, not the device in control of you, but let's be real. And let's be real, some of y'all be going to your jobs and that's the first bill you'll pay before the bill of, like with the roof over your head. And that's something we need to talk about later down the line. But what I've noticed, and I know for myself, and I knew Jules was going to tap on this, is like the moment we roll over and we start checking our phones, you have you have given the world access to you. You know what I mean? Like you've let them start drawing away from you your attention, your thoughts, your minds, your processes, whatever the case. I've gotten to the point where my morning routine is has its similarities, but for me, it's like I've now made the mindset like I need to cover my day. You know what I mean? Like, I need to cover my day with how I would want it to feel, look, and be before I let anyone else tell me it is. And I can tell now that if I don't cover my day with my daily devotional, with my praise and worships and stuff, and like my meditation, I was like, not that that day is not going to go well, but I have to even be more in tune to the present. And I say this, and I have this one sticky note that I wrote down, and it talks about I want to kind of put the perspective and the idea, like, you need to put your helmet on. You know what I mean? Like, put your helmet on before we allow anything into our ears and we allow anything into our minds. And so there's this one passage in the Bible. It talks about like having your armor. Like, you have to, I mean, you have to kind of think about it, y'all. We are going out into battle to some extent, and it's not battle with others. I think that's what the world wants us to think. It's going into battle with ourselves. You know what I mean? And our mindsets that have been cultivated. And so it talks about like standing your ground and to wear the belt of truth, the body armor of righteousness, shoes for peace of the good news, hold up a shield of faith, salvation as your helmet, and the sword of the spirit, which is the word of God. So like for me, I'm just like, put on your helmet, y'all. Put on your belt. Like, you about to go out here, and they're trying to like take us from ourselves. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm just like, if you don't have this morning routine like Jules has, and like I'll share later on, like, of course we're gonna lose a battle going into the day. You stub your toe, worst day ever. I was like, someone cut you off, worst day ever. You didn't get your coffee, worst day ever. But like, is it?
I
What you gotta
know.
say?
It's a process though too. Like I understand people are still going to struggle and get frustrated and have off days, not bad days, off not even off days, off moments. I like to rephrase things. It's not you start the day with an off moment. It doesn't make it an off day. Just understand like sometimes stubbing your toe, dropping your keys, spilling the coffee, like all of that can be happening because maybe you're moving too fast.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's the universe or someone taking care of you because you had to slow down because something bad is happening out there to protect
Mm-hmm.
you. I'm a firm believer in that. So like don't think like why is this happening to me?
Mm-hmm.
Like why can't I just get it together? Just that take that moment to like collect yourself and just okay, let's just move a little slower, grab my things a little more consciously, not try to do everything at once, and continue on to your day
Mm-hmm.
and expect that something great is going to happen now. Like, it's all about perspective and mindset and, yeah,
Yeah.
how you speak.
Part the language that we use. I made a whole video on imposter syndrome the other day. I was like, stop using that word. Like, the alternative is phenomenon, right? It's like, oh, phenomenon. First off, can I spell that? Second off, what do you mean? Y'all can watch that. Y'all can watch that another time. Is when we get bumped into, when we drop our keys, we drop our phone, we people cut us off. When we get bumped into, what spills out? So that's the real question. Is like, what are we putting into ourselves? And like, what's really deep seated in our heart? So when your edges are getting rubbed up against and you get bumped into, what's the spillage? What are you spilling out? You know what I mean? Like, is it some nasty spoiled milk, or is it some glitter and then you sprinkle them butterflies? You know what I mean? And like, I'm not saying it's supposed to always be like
Yeah.
that, but like, that's how intentional we have to be, right? Like, intentional about what we're allowing into ourselves, and the easiest gateway that gets into us is in our minds and our ears, y'all. So it's like, what's deep seating in our hearts, like that's what's gonna spill out when we get bumped. So just something, a challenge maybe to consider, like, and when you see people getting bumped into, when you're getting bumped into, maybe it's a reality check to be like, I should probably be putting some better things into this vessel so that when I get bumped into again, something a little bit more pleasant's gonna come out. Maybe it's gonna be a try. Ooh, that was a good day because it is Friday. All right, Jules, bring us fast. See, this is, I knew it. I was like, Jules and I are gonna be out here teaching y'all, so you don't want us in the same classroom. You either go with Jules or you go with me, depending on what you need for the day.
It's going to be like a whole ass
Oh my,
retreat. You got
soon, soon, y'all,
Hey,
soon.
it's on my list. I've always wanted to do a retreat.
Yes, it is on the lists of lists.
So,
So bring us to where you're at now. You talked about strategy solutions, things of that sort. What is it that you're offering, and what kinds of people are you raising your flag for them to see you?
so through this author collaboration that I'm doing, it has brought light to like what direction I'm going in with my coaching, and it's to help women who want to write their story, their nonfiction story, whether it's the whole story or a piece of it, and making sure I can help them believe, like, whether you're a writer or a non-writer, that you still belong in this space.
I love that so much for three reasons. One, I love that you're bringing us back to a practice that will never go away. It's writing is so healing, y'all. You can text and type all you want, and it's faster and all these things, but there's just something power. There's power in pen to paper. And when I think about folks back in the day when they had the feathers and the calligraphy, like that was a part of it, y'all. So I
Mm-hmm.
love that you're putting an offer out there that really allows us to slow us down. One. Number two, I love, love, love that whether it's very specifically for women or not, recognizing that I'm sure who gravitates towards you is going to be women and those who come from immigrant families and, folks of color. And recognizing culturally, y'all, like, I know from my experience, we're told to like, shh, be quiet. Don't say anything. Don't tell your story. Don't speak up. Don't cry. Don't cause any problems. All these things, but make sure you cook and clean and take care of everybody
Yes.
else at the same time. And so there's so
Yeah.
much, there's so much in all of that. And so again, recognizing Jules and myself being in the generation of the older and the younger, like just that again, that power of writing, so powerful and potent as it is for humans, but at the same time, like, what would it look like for the older generation to write their story? What would it look for the younger generation to write their story instead of putting it on their phones or, it being skewed by social media? Like, so powerful. And the last thing I love about this is that again the connection from your younger self, and how it was a practice, but also again this finding of your voice, this revealing of your voice, this yeah, it's this permission for you to share what you've always wanted to say and for you to write and for what I mean, like it's such seems like such an ode to that younger version of yourself and being like, yes girl, you still have something to say, you still have something to sing. This is again, we're going back to that self-awareness, we're going back to that self-education. You're finding us in these streets where we're trying to create what it means to be in a classroom setting, not in the educational system. So like this is the new world we're moving into, y'all. You get to choose your guides, you get to choose your mentors, you get to choose who you want to learn from. And that's why I think these conversations are so important. And it's so important for us to see like, hey, this is who Jules is. If she resonates with you, like, let her guide you. For someone who has been and is a serial entrepreneur, what are three things if someone's considering to become an entrepreneur? Three things, whether it's tactical, whether it's mindset, whether it's perspective shift. What would you say to the folks who are watching and listening?
Really find what fuels you and what feels aligned without being distracted. Like we said, there's all kinds of things on the internet and especially on Instagram too. It's like, hey, make money fast, quit your 9 to 5, do this instead. But we got the tools. Like, yeah, if you're looking for an easy way out and you feel called to do that, go that path. But just be honest with yourself, understand the reasons why you want to be an entrepreneur, which a lot of people is for the freedom. And another thing too is understand that pivots are going to happen, whether it's chosen or unchosen. And if it's unchosen, usually that's because you're not meant to do that, whether it's redirecting you to a different path or maybe you discover something while doing one thing that this is better, which is something that I am open to receiving every time I am like, oh, wait, maybe actually this is what I'm supposed to focus on. It's okay to keep changing. And third is to never focus on people's opinions ever. And also, that ties into that is people's lack of support that you expect to support you. Because that I've heard from even people more well known. Um, it's the same, it's a common, not issue, it's a common thing that happens. Because I'm not going to say it's a problem because it's not a problem unless you make it one. So understand that like the people you think are going to most support you may or may not. And you can't take it personal because if you're called to do something and you really believe in it, then you need to do it, and not like no one else is going to do it for you. And no one's going to want it more than you do. So focus on that.
I love that. I love that. And last but not least, what is your definition of an entrepreneur?
Honestly, a hot mess. No, honest, that's a good one. To me, it's just, I feel that entrepreneurship is creating something from the ground up and having control over how it moves. Like it's a part of you
Hmm.
and it's a reflection of you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just what you bring to the world and how you pour into others. That's what I feel
Mm-hmm.
it is or should be.
Yeah.
Sure, Webster thinks differently and other people think differently.
And I think that's what I was talking about earlier. I think the three perceptions of entrepreneur that I described earlier, like a lot of times we think it's a lot of money or it's get rich quick or whatever the case. Then there's this other part where it's like, oh, it's just like all about business or whatever the case. I can't remember what I said, but then the last one, it's like it's being of service. It's something that like it's wanting to come out of us and like there's no other person that can do it besides ourselves, and kind of being like, well, maybe everybody is
Right.
a little bit of an entrepreneur to some extent. And or the second one was like, oh, it's a super sexy thing that we just kind of throw in our link in bio, but like what does that mean? So I love that I asked that question because I was like, I need some clarification because I think we are in a redefining of what an entrepreneur looks like. So I appreciate you for sharing that definition. So before we tell them where they can find you and all these things, and we're also going to tell them more about how they can work with you, but I'm going to show you the thing that I have been withholding this whole time. Are you ready for it?
Yes.
Okay, perfect, because you didn't have a choice.
What did we create?
Oh, it's what we've created many times before, right? Oh, can you see it? Can you see it?
Oh my
Oh
God.
my
Yeah.
gosh. So tell them what's going on in this picture, Jules.
Well, we're definitely having
Yeah, we
coffee.
are. And we're
Yeah, this
like
is
10
the
pounds heavier.
interview.
Jeez Louise. I am.
Oh yeah, a little bit. I was on my fitness journey
Okay,
though.
and I hadn't even
Uh,
started yet. That's fine.
yeah. Yeah, this is at Songbird. This was our interview for, what was it called? Phoenix Rising?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, our first interview about why caffeine suckers was here.
Mm-hmm. And do you know what year this was?
I don't know. Oh, I see it now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
December 2015?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay,
I have been I
interesting.
have been capturing your story, Jules. How many interviews have we done so far?
Oh my God, I don't know.
That's why, y'all. I just want you to know, like,
I,
this
I,
is
I don't
this
know
is a
anymore.
special interview because I've this is our first interview together, Jules. I've been interviewing you for almost a decade.
Years. Ah!
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So if you want some old ass
Wow.
content, y'all, go to my old YouTube channel and see that this ain't nothing new. I've been doing this, and Jules has been doing this. You know what I mean? So, capturing
Yeah.
stories, connecting the dots. So,
Oh
I wanted
man.
to connect this dot. Like, wow, we do have another interview that I have from our Instagram live. It was from Leading the Pack, if you remember. But yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that's what I'm like also wanting to connect for us and realizing like there's this what I've loved and appreciated about you is that when I look over at you, I love that I'm looking over at you and even still a couple steps ahead and I'm being like it's just feels so good to not do the journey alone, and I know that that's something that we've talked about often about how like we often feel alone in our journeys, and it's odd because like our families are supportive, but they know that we're kind of on our own journey and that they couldn't help even if they wanted to, unless like, hey, if I need to come home from a home cooked meal, yes, you can provide and I will receive. But
Exactly.
yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
love about our story thus far and where we're going, and I feel like honestly we're just getting started. We're just getting started. And so, speaking of that, y'all, as you know, that this isn't the people that we like to surround ourselves with is not is the people we like to surround ourselves with is very intentional. Any last words? Any last thoughts? Anything you want to say to that little girl in the nature? Oh, how cute is she?
Don't be scared. Honestly, like that's the biggest thing is the fear, fear of whatever it is. And I know I said this in our call yesterday that I'm I was going to battle and like just trying to shut down or like quiet the distractions.
Mm-hmm.
And then your assumption was immediately it was an external distraction.
Mm-hmm.
But I was talking about my internal distractions and my thoughts. So learning to gather your tools that you need in order to navigate through this journey, whether it's life, entrepreneurship, whatever, it doesn't matter. We all need the tools in our toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
So, on how to navigate and how to control and handle our thoughts and how we think, move, feel through life
Mm-hmm.
and show up.
I love that. Awesome, Jules. Thank you so much again for being on yet another show, another idea, another
Thank
project.
you.
Always so appreciative of you and your presence. I know that it's not a cheap one. So that I just appreciate you for always being so supportive in the journey. So again, y'all, if you want to work with Jules, please, please, please
Yeah,
reach out to her. I will put her contact information below in the description and look forward to the next interview. Who knows what we're going to be talking about
I
in
know.
2 years. So it's a nice little marker, but yeah, go ahead. Say bye, Jules, and then I'm going to go ahead and just wrap them up on my end.
All right. Thank you.
Bye. Ah, yeah. Yeah, y'all. That one, this is an important one. You know, this is episode number 5, you know? And again, realizing that it was almost a decade, it's practically a decade, Jules, that I interviewed her and captured her story. And so, you know, this is something that you'll see us collaborating often. But also, like, I wanted you to get a perspective, like, you know, there's people out here that care about you. We're thinking about you. We want to help you. We want to support you, you know? And again, like, just even, no matter as many times as I get to know Jules and her story, I'm always reminded, like, the synchronicities that we have. But also just like, once we, like, once we get to that point where it's fully unlocked, y'all, just be prepared. Be prepared. But I think the biggest thing that I learned from our conversation with Jules, oh, my biggest thing I always learn from Jules is, like, just keep going. I know that right now she's going through the ebbs and flows of entrepreneurship. This, like, like, in what she shared in our mastermind was, like, you know, like, how are the bills going to get paid? How are, you know, should I get my latte for today? Things of that sort. And then having to assess, like, the opportunity cost, having to assess, like, the little luxuries that we get to have, you know. But I'm sure she can attest. And when she gets on, there's, like, somehow it always finds its way. And I love, like, that's the second thing that I've observed and learned with her is just, like, trusting the process, trusting the process, because that's something for me. I'm like, yes, trust it, but also, can I also, like, see what's on the other side of that? That'd be great. That'd be great. And I think the last thing that I'm being reminded is just, like, to trust ourselves. You know, to trust that we have everything that we need. We probably have way more than we actually need. And I think that's why we're trying to fill the need that's out there, whether it's being in this messy middle, being in this, you know, this middle millennial generation between these two that seem very vastly different, but also very oddly similar at the same time. But I think, yeah, it's the process of trusting ourselves and that we know exactly what we need to do. We have everything that we need and that we just need to keep going. So, Jules, thank you again so much for being on the show. For all of you who have stuck with this conversation and have been seeing it all the way through, I hope that it's been encouraging to you. What you'll see is some patterns in that entrepreneurship in season 1. It's going to look a little bit different to everybody. And I think that's going to be the fun part of redefining it, because we think we've had different ideas of what it could be, but we're now moving into, I do believe, a second renaissance, you know? And so the world's going to be vastly different. And just know that you have folks like myself and Jules who are wanting to support you and guide you through those transitions as much as we can. And just know that you're not alone in this journey, and that again, like what we've said earlier, that, like, we're better together. So if this is a content and series that you're interested in, make sure to subscribe. Again, I'm thinking about you. I'm thinking about bringing the best guides onto this channel so that you can choose for yourself who you want to be guided by, who you resonate with, and what they want to share with you, and how they can put some tools in your toolbox so that you can get through this journey called life. All right, y'all, I appreciate you, and we'll see you in the next episode. All right, bye, y'all.